Jesus, you're all that I want. I am resting here in your arms. Everything I'll ever need is in your presence. Your love is all that I need, and I found it there in your heart. Isn't too hard to see, it's nothing better. It isn't too hard to see. It's nothing better. It's nothing better.
Welcome to Journey to Service, episode 51. Randall
Oh,
Kaiser,
sure.
William Lannick are returning. Once again, Randall is with us. Hello, Randall. How are you?
I'm good. Just getting my phone set up here.
Look at where you are. What the heck? It looks beautiful.
Is my tie straight? I gotta make sure my tie's straight.
Oh, yes. Well, it's buried
Well,
under your jacket, but it looks good. Looks good.
There we go.
There you go. Beautiful. And he's got his purple shirt on, so he's in the healing mode.
Oh, you betcha.
Nice.
Okay, I'll show you around here.
Yeah, please. And you say you're
So-
not far from home.
No, my house is right next door. That one with the green roof. I don't know if you can see it there.
Just cut a piece of it there, but the chairs were kind of in the way.
Yeah, we call it the White House. It's got a green roof, but it's white. And then you can see the Rocky Mountains. You can see the grandstand where the Calgary Stampede happens. And downtown over that way. Honestly, we're right smack dab in the middle of the city. And it's it's stunning. I mean, if I go to the other side of the house, I can see east of Calgary, like past all of the houses and everything, I can see the prairie. And if I go to the north side of this house, this little one that I'm in now, then you can see the parkland north of Calgary and Nose Hill Park, where I was this morning. It's about, I don't know, 12-kilometer walk from here. I just got home. And then west, of course, the Rockies. South, there's foothills. It's stunning. Like we're sitting on this little, it's called Scotsman's Hill in the center of Calgary. And it's just amazing place. We sat here during the Stampede last year and watched the fireworks out the right here,
Nice.
right in front of our eyes. It's just stunning. So yeah, it's a nice place. I mean, I just rent a room and I've got a shared bathroom, but and then we share the kitchen, like it's a group of guys. Some of them come and go. It's really a bed and breakfast, but I've been here for damn near a year.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Little
Our
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, this reminds me actually of something that you said in your book. You were talking about Nose Hill Park, and you were there yesterday, actually, or I think it was yesterday, maybe even earlier today, because you posted a video this morning. So there was some snow up there. So you got some welcome to spring. You got some snow, so that's good. Although it looks like it's starting to go away already, and from what I see there behind you. But you've had you've got these great vistas and these great spots in Calgary where you can see a good chunk of the city, which is what you were just saying. But you were mentioning in the book about Nose Hill and being such a great place to see not just the city, but all around, basically, depending on where you're standing on Nose Hill. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. We had a gathering up there. I don't know, there must have been 30 people showed up. It's kind of the Top Hatters group. This guy that I really get along with downtown. He's got a very spiritual bent on business, and he sells men's clothing and whatnot. He actually gave me a couple of shirts when I was running for mayor so that I had some nice, clean new shirts. But wonderful, man. And a bunch of good friends. And they're all, they're not the kind that go to the rallies or anything, but they're, let's put it this way, they've come to their senses about all this stuff, and we're going to talk about a lot about senses today.
That sounds cool. I wanted to like the man at the menswear store sounds like a man after my own heart, because I know I've mentioned this on past shows too, but I just feel like sort of compelled to share it one more time real quick. And that is, the idea of the mentality of business, and what I've shared before is that my experience, and I'm sure I'm not alone with this, is that, like, especially if you're doing something online, there's that lack of human connection. It's sort of like, I'll take your money and I'll send you what you need, but there's no human interaction there. It's all artificial. It's very bland. It's very, there's no heart in it. And I personally have a vision, it kind of came to me in the form of a, wouldn't it be nice if kind of thought, where I'm saying, wouldn't it be nice if we could combine that sort of heartfelt um, owner next door with the small shop, combine it with the internet and be able to do business on the internet, where you have that connection still. You can still do business, obviously, and trade, money for goods. But what about that human connection, And I like that idea. And, my thought was, what if we did internet business, e-commerce, if you will, differently? What if we did it in a way where we would serve maybe not a lot of people, but maybe we would have like 100, 200, 300 people that we would service, but we would service them in a way that had connection, had warmth, had heart, had caring, where you say, what is it that you need? Maybe I can get it for you and supply it to you. And just have a whole like different perspective. I don't know if any of this rings for you, but you said that, and it just said, he sounded like a guy after my own heart. So I had to mention this. Does anything pop up for you with me sharing that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it all day. It was, we'll let the viewers in on this. We actually chatted a wee bit about this before we started. So we're not trying to pull your leg or anything, but it's the authenticity, okay? And what you said, doing business on the internet is something that went out of control, okay? So those who wanted to control the situation, central systems, okay, government, banking, whatever system you want to say, they have this central authority, they thought. Well, it just went out the window the last 2 years, or 2.5. Just think of every site that now has the capability to do video calls. We started with Zoom, but maybe not. There was other modalities that were doing it, or other social media sites, but now every damn one of them, we can go on and we can join in a group with 2 or 3 or whatever. Zoom, you can put like 100 in. It went completely sideways for those that were, the World Economic Forum and their bullshit. And all it is just bullshit, and those of us that came to our senses became sense ordered,
Sense ordered. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sense ordered. I wrote that word down because we got a couple words that we still have to watch, right? Because those who come to their senses get sense ordered off. Get lost. You're not talking. We got to tell our lies. Never mind you guys and your truth and your common sense. Get lost. And I mean, God, all it's done is just gave us opportunity after opportunity, William, to blow this whole lie out of the water. And how many lies have been told? How many sales pitches do you have to see on advertising and everything else? You go ahead, because I got a few more things I want to talk about here, but I can see you want to say something.
What I was thinking was, well, I want to just ask you a simple question. How's it going, and what kinds of things have popped up this week for you, and in the the Divine Order of Saint Miriam, plus anything else that's going on in your world?
Well, that like it all relates to this whole idea of not being able to control eye to eye, living man and woman on the land communicating with each other, right? And perfect example was this gathering up on top of that Noah's Hill Park this morning. Like, my God, the people, like, and these, like I say, these aren't people that are, going out and doing their thing like at the rallies, and that all went sideways. I found out today that I missed the last 2 Saturdays, like last Saturday and yesterday. I decided not to go. But both those days, they had a bunch of trouble. Like the last week that I went, there was a bunch of goofy guys that stopped 10,000 of us coming down the street. Like we went every week, right? So there was like a dozen or 20 of them maybe. And then 20 cops backing them up, or in front of them, actually. You know, they were there to protect these other 20 guys who were trying to say that, you know, they had the way that was right forward and that we were the bad guys. It was just insane. So last Saturday, the Saturday that I missed, I guess they were out in full force and like 100 cops because they knew this was coming. Well, my God, isn't that a setup deal? You know, like if those guys weren't paid, then I don't know what, you know. And then on top of that, the mayor now came in this week, the mayor of Calgary, you know, the corporate mayor, not the sovereign mayor. And she said, no more marching on the streets. You have to just go on the sidewalks and follow the rules and go. Like, what the hell? They made a new bylaw just because of this, you know, other little group of people that probably got paid to do what they did. I mean, it's just insane. So that sense ordered from the common sense people who are just saying, look, we have common sense to tell you here, you know, what's what we're here for. All of these people that have been walking on the street for the last 2 years or whatever, we have common sense. They get sense ordered off. And then the government comes in. So these corporate governments just keep exposing their insanity, how ridiculous it is. And every day, another few people become aware and realize that common sense is going to prevail here, you know? And that's all it is common sense. You know, COVIDia is a parasite. I mean, so is that other one. They're both parasites. The clam and the cove. They're both parasites. Why the hell do you think that Ivor guy works? You know, that stuff that you can take. It destroys parasites.
Yeah, we know him as Ivan. We know him as Ivan.
Yeah, Ivan, right? Yeah, Ivan. You know that. And there's different remedies too, but that one is very good for getting rid of parasites, which COVIDia is, and so is clam, you know, that other one. But yeah, it's been just a beautiful way to awaken people to common sense, you know, instead of this ridiculous, look, these guys are walking by smiling, listening to me. You know, the ridiculous notion that we've been fed all this bullshit on television for so long, and we're all coming to our common senses, right? We're all coming to our common senses, finally, aren't we? I love you guys.
Sounds like you got some supporters there.
They're just common sense people walking up the street, you know, that know, and majority of people do know that it's all been a big bullshit lie, right? And it's like, finally, they're, you know, went past the Saddle Dome, which is just over my shoulder there too. Hockey game the other night, and it was a warm night, eh? So they were walking in from everywhere. Train was offloading, like they probably had their 16,000 seat capacity filled up that night. And I never seen one human, man living on the land or woman on the land with a diaper on their face walking up to that thing. I thought, holy cow, perfect, you know, like it's just gone. The whole thing just disappeared as soon as you know, they had another story to tell about some other bad guys that have, okay, wait a minute, I have to read this too properly.
Okay.
They have physiological weapons of destruction, because if we use you know, that word, we might get in trouble on YouTube and get our sense ordered again. But we can use physiological weapons of mass destruction, I'm sure, and they won't be able to get us. They won't be able to sense order us off. So this, you know, they're blowing up, or not blowing up, but they're taking over these physiological weapon facilities, and and it's blowing the whole Nazi government of Ukraine out of the water. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? You know, like, it's so obvious anymore. Everything, just common sense. Wake up. NATO had missiles aimed at Russia for how many years? Ever since the Cold War. And they just kept squeezing and squeezing. Let's get that mother bear. Let's get the, because they don't want to deal with our central bank system and the whole Rothschild scheme of credit manifestation, rather than something backed by some physical entity. And okay, well, no, we backed it by the petroleum. We backed it by the petrodollar. No, you didn't. You just boosted up a Federal Reserve note that had no bloody value left in it whatsoever anymore. But because you were trading in that petrodollar, you were able to keep it alive and keep people thinking that it works and that it's good. And it's just insane. So how many ways have we been sold the bullshit stories for how many years? And thank God for the internet, okay? Because of what's happened. And they could not sense order it out of reality. Like, they tried their best, but they couldn't sense order this thing out of reality. So now, just a touch on the banking side, what we're doing is, because of all of these modalities, like, I didn't even know about Microsoft Teams or Google. What's Google? Google's got, oh shoot, it's another internet,
yeah,
you know, Zoom meeting thing, right?
yep.
So, and there's tons of them. I mean, you can do it on Telegram, you can do it everywhere. So what they've tried to do is, in certain nations, well, you can't use you can't use that one, but it doesn't matter anymore. There's so many of them that we've got ways. Okay, so in the banking world, what's the best way to get a bank deal done? Eye to eye, tabletop meetings. You know, that's the way it used to work. But then they switched into, oh well, I'll show you my passport and I'll show you my CIS and my KYC, know your customer, and customer information sheet. I could show you everything, but then when it comes to, you know, the transaction, well, who the hell is this, you know? But the central bank loved that, you know, the central bank system just loved it, because then you don't, we don't need any of that. Nobody knows what's going on. We can pull off shit all over the place. We can support our globalist agenda with transactions, and oh my God, it was just a free-for-all, but not anymore, because we can get eye-to-eye meetings, and we're setting those up for this week. There's people all over the world setting these up, and it's peer-to-peer again, okay? We're gonna get rid of the idea that the central bank or the SWIFT system or the CHIPS system, CHIPS being clearing house, okay? A house usually involves more than one person, right? So there's people involved in the CHIPS system. SWIFT is the Society of Worldwide Interbranch Financial Transactions. Well, society is a group of people. And instead of the people eye-to-eye meeting, well, we just put it through the society and we'll let it go through, or we'll let it not go through. You know, it was just amazing. So all of those things combined that we've just talked about, every one of them means the same thing. They cannot, through a central system, call it government, call it central banking, call it a whatever you like, they cannot hold humanity back any longer. We've busted loose, and we're not going to stop communicating like this.
You told me before we started today's show, when we were talking on the phone, that something led to what you just shared now about, you know, the Zoom calls in the banking world. Can you share that story again?
Yeah, basically it's that we're setting up for these you know, peer-to-peer transactions, and unless, instead of just sending paper and documents and contracts, we're going to be looking at each other, you know, and that doesn't happen very much. And a lot of people don't want it to happen because these account holders are just huge account holders. they don't want to chance somebody finding out who they are. I mean, it's bad enough that they're sending passports and stuff around, but you tap into a video call or something like that. But these video calls are being more and more protected. You can't just share them, and the people that are involved are obviously going to just look each other in the eye. Like the bank that I deal with has a specific one that they use, Microsoft Team. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in one of the nations I want to work with. So I got to get another one, but they'll work with us. They'll find another one that works. Damn it. Google what? What's the Google one? I can't think.
Is it Google Play, maybe?
No, it's not Play. It's like Team, but Microsoft Teams is the name of theirs.
Right.
But like I say, we've got so many now, it's just busting open, and there's more every day. It seems like holy cow, where'd that one come from?
Gotcha.
So that's what got me going on it. But the meeting today up on the hill where we talked with those conscious people that are, in their senses. And I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not relying on information from the outer. You have 6 senses, and then there's maybe 7 or 8. I don't know how many senses there is that give you the common sense that you need to know how much bullshit we've been fed, how much advertising, how many false flag events. We all knew this before the 2 years of this
adventure
COVIDia, and this parasite that gotten into our systems. And I mean, whatever, like it was tough going through that. And you and I knew this from the beginning. So many people knew this from the beginning. I walked in over 2 years ago downtown, and at that time they didn't have diaper bylaws and shit like that. But the people were so bloody scared because they just heard it on the news that the downtown was completely empty. It was like a freaking ghost town, You could walk in anywhere, and I did. I went and had my videos 2 years ago. Most of those videos got trashed because YouTube censored me off. But I was in there in Bankers Hall and all those office towers, and they were just empty. You could sit anywhere, walk around because they were still open, but there's nobody in there. Just disappeared because they were told. And I mean, I don't blame them. They were driven the fear into their minds from day one, so whatever. But
it's interesting because I just think about that, the power of the voice, the power of the media, the power of that communication system. It just shows you just how much of an impact it has on humanity. And hopefully that's changing. But I mean, I experienced the same thing in Vancouver here too, when they had that initial lockdown and they said everybody stay home kind of thing. And I went for a walk one day, and it was like, where did everybody in the whole city of Vancouver go? I mean, it was like the streets were bare. And this was in the middle of a week on a weekday during business hours, and you couldn't see anybody on the streets. It was Twilight Zone-y, to say the least. So that that was kind of weird. I did find it interesting too that you stopped going to the rallies about the same time that these problems started to kick up, and I just find that an interesting serendipitous situation in that your gut was probably telling you something, because you even said it in one of your videos, I think last Monday or Tuesday or something, where you said you just didn't feel the calling to go back there again. And it was time for you to kind of maybe take a new step or go in a new direction or whatever. But I find it interesting that you got this latest news that you shared today about some of the friction that was going on during the rallies these last 2 Saturdays in Calgary. So yeah, just amazing times where I think that something can be said for trusting your instincts too. And where do you go next? And what's next for Randall? You're still working on the St. Miriam stuff, but you were expressing quite a bit of confidence to me on the telephone today kind of not quite saying it, but kind of saying that, some things are going to be a little bit different by the time we get to the end of March, just given the progress that you've been seeing. Is there anything more you can tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically back to that, peer-to-peer communication. That's what it's about. We're getting people to open up and not be afraid to come out into the eye-to-eye meetings. Like I've been that guy who's been on the web talking about this and there's others like Charlie Ward and others like that talk about, banking and QFS and stuff. But, my involvement and then my involvement with these inside bankers and royal families and stuff, it's been a conflict at times. Like they tell me, you need to shut up. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna stop talking. I mean, if you want to run away from me and hide, that's okay. I'll find somebody else. And I've got such a list and such a network of people now that I don't care. And a lot of these people, they don't watch very many of my videos, but they'll watch one or two and like, what the hell? This guy shouldn't be talking like that about our manual downloads and our KTKs and our IP, banking stuff. Like, and I'm like, that's fine. You go do your thing if you want. Go hide again if you want. I don't care. And the ones that know the truth and that came to their senses, they like what I'm doing. And they're loving it because it's like bringing back that authentic communication. I'm not reading from a fucking script or anything. And I am involved in this banking industry at that level. Tell me I'm not, like seriously, people. I'm not like Charlie Ward sitting back and talking to a whole bunch of people on the internet, or David Rodriguez, or, Ruben Hernandez. There's a name. And that's an inside guy that I talk to, QFS guy. I don't give a shit about whether he knows that I said his name on here or not. The guy is kind of a slimy, and I'm not running him down. He's got ideas for the banking system too, but he's one of the top QFS guys, right? And he doesn't want his name to get out there to anybody. Well, it's out there now for our 150 fans or whoever, many people watch our little show. So, go piss up a rope, Ruben Hernandez. If you can't come out clean and, then go whatever, I think he has some good ideas. It's just like Kim Gagon, who actually does come out in the open and she'll speak. And she's got quite a following. So I don't run Kim down that much, other than I think she's a little wacky because she thinks she's the only one. And there's like thousands, and if not tens of thousands of ways to get this done, to move these off ledgers funds. Like, it's just that simple. She makes it into some story where she's the only one. Well, we've had that a few times and other people say it, but whatever. But at least Kim comes out and with her pretty face and sells her story, like I give her credit for that.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead.
You're right. There are all kinds of different ways. And I think the more I've been watching the different, truthers and different information from different sources, and truthers is a name they give themselves, obviously, but it just seems to be that there are definitely ways. I mean, we've even had different ways on this show. We've had, Lee talking about GPMS, and you were talking about, St. Miriam, and still are. And we know of other places, a couple of which you've already mentioned. So, it doesn't mean that there's just one way to skin the cat. I do believe, just from a personal perspective, that if mankind wants to make a change across all the lands, that encompass the earth, that there will need to be a coming together at some point. And I think, that's one feather, I think, in the cap of, GPMS, as they talk about more of a global thought. And I know St. Miriam is open to whoever wants to come in and be part of it as well. So it just seems to me that, yes, there are different movements of change happening we can smell it in the air. You can start to see the results. You're getting more information out there now, that things that you never heard before. You're feeling more comfortable in talking about some things that you couldn't talk about before. Other people in other systems, same story. That more things seem to be coming out. And there are times when I feel like it's kind of all over the place. Like there's so many different things, and it feels like none of them are connected, but yet somehow there is a commonality. I think we just haven't quite all got it together yet as a whole. Any thoughts about maybe that as far as the longer term? Do you see St. Miriam possibly teaming up with some of these different groups that might be doing something?
I don't think we need to, William. There's 7 billion people, or 5 or 6, who the hell really knows for a fact, because that's all government propaganda too. But we know there's a lot, right? And so many different structures out there. That's why I'll say, like, go Kim, go going, like, go girl, go. Like, just get her done. And with DOSM, I don't focus there. In fact, I brought more of my network to DOSM than I've seen from the people that are part of DOSM. Like, honestly, like I've been at this banking business and, call myself a broker or a consultant for these account holders. And, you've seen the book, like, when the hell did I start? It was in 2016 or something like that.
Yep.
So a long time before I met anyone with DOSM. So, it's just that DOSM is a really good place to get this done, because there's royal family members that know these truths well beyond the government and all their games, So it was a really nice transition for me, or an ascension, whatever you want to call it, to get up to this level of dealing with these royal families, on top of connecting with all the bankers and the other account holders that I've known for years already.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a burning question about that I'd like to ask, based on something you just said at the beginning of the last answer. And that is about, it sounded to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded to me like some of these folks from the royal families that you're talking to and are connected with aren't overly familiar with what you've known, like how the banking works in the upper levels. So what did those folks in those royal families do to get money transacted? Because I imagine they would have to, do that at some point. Did they have managers or someone that took care of it for them? Or how did that work that way? And what's different now?
Mostly that's how it was done, like they were just, and they weren't at the point up until now of, how do I say this? Like, they were doing transactions, but we had this central government, central bank control system that was diverting funds into the hands of the globalist agenda, the World Economic Forum, whatever you want to call it. I just simply say the globalists, right? And the globalists, led by the nastiest worst ones, the nastiest Nazi worst ones, okay, who have never stopped since World War II, with their Tavistock industry psychological mind fuckery that just continued on into Hollywood and mainstream media. But again, the reason that it changed is social media. That's where it flipped, and there's no way they could stop it or control it. And I mean, nations around the world are coming up with their own potential internet, including Russia. If they don't, they want to stay connected with us and stuff, or I think some of them do, but other ones, it's like, fuck it, like, we'll just do it ourselves. And Russia is a perfect example, because they don't need anything from any other nation. They've got it all, just like Canada has it all if we ever woke up, but we've got way more production than we have consumption of anything, and Russia's the same way. So, it was that central system, that middleman that's selling stories and telling lies. That's what the problem was. And I mean, now that we've got social media wide open like it is and expanding every day, nothing's stopping it.
It's kind of interesting in that, you know, we have, I see these certain like dichotomies, if I can use that word, where we're talking about global, and yet there's a lot of movement and interest in doing things on a community level, on a community-based level. There's talk about, you know, governments and borders and all that kind of stuff. And then there's talk about rejigging all of that based on the money system. There's talk about, you know, those kinds of, it seemed like, you know, like for example, computers, you know, the internet and the computer and the whole, it all communicates with the whole world. But then there's talk about, you know, being more local and doing things more locally. So it really feels like, I don't, to me anyway, it's kind of like we've shaken the whole damn thing up, and we've got all these bits and pieces all over the place, and it's now up to us to figure it out. And what I'm wondering is, you know, like when it comes to things like natural resources, like oil, gas, food, those kinds of things, many of the countries, including ours, our beautiful big country that has our own resources and can produce cattle and grains and oil and gas and a whole bunch of really great things for ourselves as well as the world, but for ourselves at least. And we haven't been really utilizing it very much for ourselves. Instead, we were exporting a lot of it. You know, we can start using it for ourselves. We can start giving it to ourselves and start incorporating that and creating more of a local environment. Because obviously, when we start working and talking with each other, we can start figuring out our problems and finding solutions within the means and the resources that we have. So, and the same thing with the money system, I think, and this is where I would love you to comment on is do you think that the money system might end up being where it is, more local, because you're going to probably be seeing more resources and things done locally and on a community level? Or do you have any visions or thoughts about that?
For sure. Like going back to asset-backed banking, you know, like, and whether that's trading oil for gold or, you know, wheat for gold or whatever, without that US Federal Reserve note in the middle of all of that, it's common sense that we're going to go back to not go back to, we're just going to open up more of that kind of community banking structure where, you know, it not barter and trade, but, you know, when you started that, you were talking about computers, and when I realized, oh Jesus, coyotes even down here in the river valley. I don't know if you can hear them or not, but
Not
a
quite.
little early for them to start up. The full moon was last night. Anyway, sorry, we're getting distracted. So, you know, when I really started to get close to the two QFS systems that I got involved in, okay, two of them.
I mean, there's more than one?
Oh yeah, there's probably 3 or 4. I don't know.
Wow.
But the two that I'm involved in, the one guy, he's an old friend. Like, we've been friends for a long time. And the way he talks is these asset-backed accounts coming on Ledger, and then, you know, the QFS, and he'll use that QFS words, is just going to open up these accounts wide open. The other guy who I mentioned earlier, I won't mention his name again because I don't want to make him out to be a bad guy. He has great ideas for humanity, knows that it's connected to these asset-backed accounts and everything as well. But yet he was talking about, you know, how this QFS system, quantum computer, will, you know when there's a bad guy or something. You know, there's some kind of because everything is so traced through the computer system. And I thought, okay, you know, that was my first thought when he talked that way. And when other people talk about QFS, they'll say the same thing. And I don't want to judge it. I'm just like, okay. So then I thought, I pulled it on this guy. I said, so you're still talking about charging interest? Because he said that to me one day. I said, what the hell are you talking about? There's unlimited funds. This is quantum funding system if you're going to talk QFS rather than quantum financial system in my mind. Because what we're doing is releasing the abundance. Oh, no, we can't go there. I'm like, okay, see you later. Take your QFS and whatever, pack sand. And I mean, if you can make it work and it works for you, I'm not running you down. I'm just saying that doesn't work for my mind because my mind says there's unlimited funding. And then we get to this global agenda. I want to speak on that for a minute because, people will use the word globalists outright. And then they still think that we live on a fucking globe. Like, what the hell? Donald Trump, we're going to stop these globalists. But yet he still thinks we live on a spinning ball, a globe. Like, come on. I'm sorry. I had to pitch that one in there because I do have people that have come back to me and like, oh, you're flipping back to the globe thing. No, I'm not. We live on a flat, motionless plane that I don't know how big it is. And I know there's more land than what we're told, okay? Whether it's beyond the Antarctic Circle, and they even call it a circle, or where it is, I don't know, but we've been lied to about that too. History, everything's just been outright bullshit lies and propagated by mainstream media that's been lying to us ever since it started, ever since the first television began. But I wanted to say, at our get together today, a couple of little things from that I wanted to point out before we get going too far and we're done our show for the day. And that was this guy. He's a pilot, and I met him for the first time. I'd say he'd been in his mid to late 30s, really nice young guy. And we got chatting, and very common sense, uncensored, ordered guy. Like he talked what he wanted to talk, and great young guy. And he says, my generation, nobody watches the news anymore. He said, I don't know anybody that watches the news. Like he said, Joe Rogan's, top guy as far. And I mean, I've heard that these, like Joe Rogan gets more views than Tucker Carlson, for fuck's sake.
Well, the whole CNN network, in fact.
Yeah.
Well, he's Tucker Carlson's Fox, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. So, these there again, social media is just taking over. It's like, why would I listen to somebody that seems to be bullshitting me? Like, and the more people that even think about this from a common sense level know that Covidia was just bullshit. It's a freaking parasite. It's whatever it is, but it sure the hell was not a pandemonia thing. Like didn't deserve any of that. And then this physiological warfare that came out of it, which is what that shit is. This shit, it's an experimental physiological thing, and whether it's just experimental or whether it's outright, meant to take people out. I'm not going to go down that route. Let's not go there at all. But on the advertising front, this was another one that came up today. A friend of mine from Ontario, and we were just chatting, and he was talking about the Tesla. Okay, the new one that came out. I forget. It's a 3, I think. That thing is under $50,000, eh? That when they first brought that out, $5.6 billion in one day, blew away any marketing campaign in the world. Okay.
You mean in sales, or do you mean in their
stocks, sales,
in their shares? Okay.
Sales in one day. The first day they opened up sales of that car, a $50,000 car, like half the price of the Tesla S, I think, is the next one up. That's about $100,000. But when they pumped that thing out, and no advertising, that was the funny part of this story. Like we were talking about, all that was social media and people talking from, to each other. Like you don't, and I don't know because I haven't turned on TV in years, but GM and Ford are on there, that's for sure. But I don't think Tesla's ever been on television, But yet, the biggest blow away day of sales in the history of cars, and it was Tesla that did it. So another example of how, mainstream media is fucked. There's no way we're going back to that lying, bullshitting, crap. And that's all it is. And from every aspect.
You know, it's kind of interesting you say that, because, for months now, I've been thinking that the media the mainstream media was one of the most challenging things to deal with, because they were pumping out what they were pumping out. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we just kind of phased them out somehow, or someone dealt with them, or, that kind of thing. And again, I was looking for some help from outside of myself. But what you just said makes a lot of sense, and this is what's been said about the people, versus, the higher level cue ball people, that you've talked about in the past. And that the thing that they're most afraid of is when we completely ignore them and don't do anything that they dictate or say. And it sounds to me like that you just kind of said that about mainstream media too. If no one's going to be listening or paying attention to them anymore, that might be the death knell of it anyway. And no one has to do anything about it apart from just ignore them at this point.
I think it already happened, William. I think it's done. It's just, they're trying to pump ideas, and there's still people wandering around trying to support the Nazi CIA imposed government in the Ukraine, which, come on, let's just tell it what it is, And I mean, even Trudeau's little finance girl, what the hell is her name? That I should know that.
You mentioned her name before, but I don't remember.
Finance minister from Canada, in a protest rally for the Ukraine, carrying a Nazi sign. I mean, they're telling us themselves now, how ridiculous it is. But whatever, it's all coming apart, and common sense is overriding sense ordered stuff, like, just put it simple. I like my words. And when we come up with new words like we did today with covidia, a parasite.
Make sure you always are safe when you're dealing with covidia. Yeah. So is there anything else that was sort of on the slate of Randall wants to share this today that we haven't covered?
I'm looking at my notes because I did write a couple notes.
I feel like there's still something there. I'm not sure what, but
You think so, do you?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't see anything on here. I'm just, maybe I wanted to go back to the rally, and you said that I got a sense.
Yeah, your intuition, your sense of, it's just not for me anymore. And you even made a video saying that, like, on a Monday or Tuesday last week. And I thought, isn't that interesting timing? And are there really ever any coincidences? So yeah, please speak to that.
Yeah. So last 2 years ago, about this time, we started to meet little groups, of people that, had common sense all the way back when this whole ridiculous notion started. So we'd meet in this little park, and I went down memory lane, and I went to that park. It's called Edworthy Park here in Calgary. And I sat there, and I did a short video there that day too, just talking about memory lane and visiting. But basically what I was saying was, the same guy who runs this, they call it Calgary Freedom Central or something there, that does these marches now, where they had as many as 10,000 people or more, sometimes maybe 15,000, the biggest rallies that they had. But he was one of the guys that sat with me, the first 20 or 15 or 20 of us that sat around there. And, we talk a little bit about the problems, but then we just, at the end of the meetings, we'd all hold hands and we'd play a song on the radio or something, and just get that spiritual, togetherness notion into that. And I enjoyed that so much. And the first few rallies we used to go to, we did that. And we'd end them where people would sing a song and hold hands at the end. And that was my favorite part. I never was much for calling out the politicians, although I did kind of do that.
Really? You looked like you did it really well.
When I was running for mayor, it was a lot of fun. But and more making fun of them than calling them bad Nazis or anything like that. And that got carried away at these rallies, But 4 weeks ago, the second last rally I was at, or 3 weeks ago, the second last rally I was at, was the first time I saw conflict on the street, you know, and there was these ladies, I don't know, they looked like they were cross-dressers, but they were dressed scantily, all kinds of makeup, and didn't really look like girls. And they were in the middle of the street with 10,000 people walking past them, giving us the finger and swearing and cussing. And they all had diapers in their face. And I'm like, what? And there was like a dozen cops around them, you know, to protect them from us, or maybe protect us from them. I don't know. I think it would have been protect us from them. But then the second last one I was at was when there was about 20 guys and stopped the whole crowd, like 10,000 of us coming down the street that we marched every week. And the cops protected them and stood in front of them. And there was less than 20 of these goofs. And I went through the cops and I went right up to the one guy. He had a thing on his face, sunglasses on. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, you know, we're all here for freedom. If you're here for freedom, like, because the sign said something about, we want freedom. The police are backing these characters. And I'm like, buddy. And I tried to talk to him. And then I looked at the other guys. Not one of them would open their mouth. They didn't want to have an authentic conversation with me. And I was just being kind. I wasn't saying, get out of our way or any of that stuff. I just said, what do you guys want? Like, what is it that you're trying to prove here? And not single one, like staring into space with their diapers on their face and their sunglasses. So it made me wonder, you know, like, are these guys being paid or what? You know, like a lot of people will say that. But anyway, that was the last time I went. And then I heard that the next week there was actually some scrums, and then the mayor came down on the whole thing, the corporate mayor, and said, no more walking on the streets. Whatever. So this week, I think the rally was quite a bit smaller. I just talked to somebody yesterday that said it was quite a bit smaller, and they were only on the sidewalks but still doing their thing. So I don't know. I think it's time to just leave that behind, you know, and now I want to end this by talking about love, knowing that everything is love. Everything is the way it's supposed to be, perfect, moving toward completion. And the characters that played their roles, whether it be Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau, and whether they're wearing a mask or whether they're actually these people, doesn't matter. We had to have them play their role to exhume and unveil, you know, 50, 60, 70 years of mind manipulation by the television. And I'll simplify it at that. People can go into stories of, oh, it's been going on way longer and everything like that. Okay, fine, you know. But in our history, like yours and mine, William, it's that television that programmed people and just kept lying to them, you know, like it's just so obvious. So thank you, Justin Trudeau. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, all of you characters that played your role. And God bless you. And I forgive you. You know, that's what I'm saying. I forgive you because I don't know what the hell's going to happen with you. And I wouldn't want to be you, you know, like seriously. If you're real, if you're fake, if you're anything, I wouldn't want to be you because you've been exhumed. Your apocalypse is coming on you. Apocalypse meaning the great revealing. That's all it means. And that apocalypse came down on those who were hiding and sneaking around, secret society, secret this, secret that. Too late. It's done. We're here. We're revealing the truth. This is YouTube. And everybody that watches this has the ability to share this if they want. And please do, because we only get a couple hundred hits on our views or likes or whatever, you know, and there's some pretty dedicated people, but my God, you know, I haven't used any of the language that'll get me sense ordered. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying they're bad guys, other than, yeah, there's a Ukrainian Nazi organization, but that's pretty obvious. And that, you know, that history back to World War II never ended. Okay. Those same group of people moved over to America and started up mainstream media and kept that story going. Keep the lies into the minds of the masses. Government, govern the mind, control the mind. It's all so simple. And so many people have just got it, came to their common senses and just got it.
I love how that Calgary sunshine just comes down on you here in the second half of the show when you started talking about this kind of stuff. So we all know that Calgary is great for sunshine, and you get a lot of it. Sure looks good there over your right shoulder right now.
You betcha. Yeah, it's, I mean, and there again, like, why did we do all of this today and have this show today with this finale, getting close to the finale? We'll do one more show, but you know, it's because it's resonating and harmonizing with the balance of Mother Nature. Okay. And that's what we talked about up on the hill with that crowd that we had today. Just harmonize, just bring it back into knowing that God or source, whatever word you want to put on it, created this beautiful heavenly Mother Earth. And all of the rest of the animals and everything figure it out. But we just want to screw with each other's minds, you know? And I'm not saying it's the one government that does it. We all screw with each other's minds, trying to sell each other something, you know, capitalism at its finest. We're just selling some good old common sense, some truth. We've been doing it for almost a year now, you and I, William, and we're not going to stop. Well, we may stop this show, but we'll keep doing our job and keep doing our thing.
For sure. And I think the thing that I like, and I'm starting to hear and get a sense of, including me personally, like I know you were talking about, you know, feeding junk into our minds, so to speak. And, you know, I'm guilty of feeding junk into my own mind as I've been, you know, growing up and had different thoughts given to me. And then I would regurgitate them and go over and over and over again in my own thoughts. And I'm just, you know, I'm sort of discovering what works and what doesn't work now. But the thing that I think we're moving toward, that I'm getting a sense of, is that we're stopping the, you know, the whole what side is the right side kind of thing. And it's more about, what do we want to create? What kind of world, what kind of life, what kind of experience can we create? And if we focus on the love rather than who's right and who's wrong, I think that we'll progress and proceed much quicker and much farther than we would if we kept sort of, you know, which side of the fence are you on mentality, you know, going on. So with that, I think I'm pretty much done. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we have you do our final blessing to close out the show today?
I had something in my mind from that, what you were just talking about, but I think we'll have one more show next weekend, so we'll have time to think about more things. And we've reiterated a lot of stuff. Oh, there's the 6 o'clock bell going off. There's a church not too far from here, and it must be 6 o'clock. So we've been on for an hour, but we oh, that's what it was. I was going to tell people that I'm looking forward to a shake. Wednesday night was the last time I ate. I had made some really good chili. It wasn't that hot, and I put some cheese in it, so it was just delicious. Me and this buddy, he lives in this big house up here. He has a room in this house. He's been here since September, kicked out of his house by his wife, who kicked him out because he wouldn't do this, if you can imagine. Wealthy man, 70 some years old, has a beautiful home that she's in. You know, just insane. But anyway, that guy, he comes over and I cook dinner with him. He doesn't cook himself, so I cook dinner at least once a week, and we share some stories, and he's just a wonderful guy. But we had dinner on Wednesday night, and I haven't eaten since. So I decided, well, instead of dragging it into almost 5 days, I'm going to stop tonight and I'm going to have a shake. So I'm going to put my blueberries and cherries and avocado, banana, and some pineapple and a little coconut milk, and I'm going to have a shake.
That sounds very much like the ones I make. Well, that's pretty cool. I would say shake, 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 shake your fruity.
thanks for your authenticity and all of the laughs we've had, William. And like I say, we'll do this again next week, and that might be the last one, but we'll see what happens. And I'll leave it with abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. Peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day. Keep repeating that stuff, guys. Keep mastering your mind, your own mind. Just program yourself with that beauty, with that love, with that harmony, all of those words that we just went through. I love you, William. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randall. We'll see you next week.
Isn't too hard to see. It's nothing better. It isn't too hard to see. There's nothing better.